This morning we're going to debug the TSQL error. The identity function can only be used when the select statement has an into clause. And let's just demonstrate this fairly quickly here. We're going to select star from sales, just to note that there is no ID field. And we will do this identity function. We'll use the identity function, which basically does exactly what identity would do on a table. So for instance, if you're going to really fast create table, new table, and we were to build an identity field, we would do int identity, and we wanted to increment by 1 and start at 1, ta-da. So you'll see it looks actually very similar. So let's suppose we wanted to select this table with an identity field. It would break and it would give us this error message, right? Now, the solution is if we just want an identity field on the table, what we can do is we can select row number over and order by. In this case, we'll say salesperson, and then we'll do star from sales. And you'll notice, well, actually I just put ID here, and you'll notice we have our ID field. And I mean, notice again, we didn't get an error message, and we created it on the fly. We ordered it by salesperson. We could also order it by call result, if that's how we wanted to order our data. Now, if we want to use the identity function, and this would be kind of a strange example, because again, usually, not always, but usually, it's really the outcome, for instance, of a query that we're wanting. But if we just had to use the identity function, we would want to use it on an into statement. So select identity and then select star from this table. We're going to insert it into sales 2. And we'll note that we don't get an error message because it's a select into statement, which is why the first was breaking. In general, just a quick note, and you'll see it, sales 2 is fine. Okay, so in general, one quick note to make is that it's poor database design to want to add an identity field to a table that you haven't added. So in other words, if we sit there and we create another table to have an identity field, why didn't we create the identity field on the original table? So while this right here works, if we don't want an identity field for a query, this is useful. If we want an identity field on our table, and so we create a new table just to have an identity field, this is a good example of poor database design. So from a query standpoint, this is very useful. This right here, it brings up the question, well, why don't we have an identity field in sales? If we need to create another table with an identity field from an original table, this would work very useful, or for a query, this would also work.